You can give the people all the goodies Joe Manchin will allow, and it doesn't seem to buy their love. Why? Why is the party that supports so many issues that benefit the middle class still considered out of touch by 62% of Americans? In plain English, nobody likes a snob. Someone who's mulling a change. Maybe this will put quietus to the nonsense that Elon and Rogan too went to the dark side. I hear that all the... They went to the dark... Yeah, like they got that The Last of Us fungal infection and became zombies. No, they just got driven away, because that's how politics works these days. One side gets elected precisely because the other side was just in power and pushed their agenda way too far and drove people in the opposite direction.
Here's the point nobody in politics likes to say out loud. You can have policy reports, expert committees, impressive numbers, and a cart full of government programs, but if people feel like you look down on them, they're gone. That's all it takes. That's how it works. Voters will overlook many things, but they won't forgive being treated like fools by people who act like they are the smartest in every room. That's why this Bill Maher rant struck a nerve. Because under the jokes, sarcasm, eye rolls, and his usual style, there is one very simple truth. Nobody likes a snob. If you're already enjoying this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and comment, because this is the kind of discussion people should stop whispering about and start saying openly. What Maher is really talking about is bigger than left or right. It's about political gravity. It's about how parties lose people. It's about how movements that begin as caring and reasonable slowly turn into something preachy, arrogant, and hard to be around. Not because everyone is like that, but because the loudest voices become the identity. Once that happens, it becomes very hard to convince ordinary people the party still gets them. That's the real problem. Democrats can support policies that truly help working people. Healthcare, wages, labor rights, consumer safety, support systems. All fine. But if people connect your side with constant criticism, strange language, online purity tests, and the feeling that one wrong word gets you publicly attacked, then policy stops mattering. Because politics is not only about promises. It is about emotion, and many Americans feel progressives are not trying to persuade them but correct them. That is toxic in a democracy. And Bill Maher, despite his flaws, sees it clearly. He is basically asking how many times this warning needs to be repeated before it is understood. Barack Obama warned Democrats not to become the party of scolding. Even Hillary Clinton said you must meet people where they are and not talk down to them. When both Obama and Clinton are saying stop sounding like an angry HR department, that should raise concern.
And that is what is so galling about this. It's exactly what Barack Obama had just told the Democrats at their convention not to do.
Our politics have become so polarized these days that all of us across the political spectrum seem so quick to assume the worst in others. Unless they agree with us on every single issue, we start thinking that the only way to win is to scold and shame and out-yell the other side.
But for years now, the activist side of the left has behaved like talking down to people is a winning plan. As if shouting louder, moral lecturing harder, and inventing new buzzwords every week will eventually make everyone agree. That is not how people work. Nobody is insulted into agreement. Nobody is shamed into loyalty. Nobody reads a long post calling them ignorant and suddenly changes their mind. It doesn't happen. What actually happens, as Maher explains, is simple. People don't get converted. They get pushed away, not educated, not convinced, just pushed out.
He drives people insane, I get it. And you know what? I used to know Bradley a little bit. He wasn't this guy. And while he may relish writing Cheryl Hines off, I'm not writing him off. Because that's not the way to handle this. President Obama, if you would, one more time, please.
Our fellow citizens deserve the same grace we hope they'll extend to us.
So I get it. Trump makes us crazy. He just does. I found a gray hair myself the other day.
That's where the Elon Musk and Joe Rogan point comes in. The simple version says they switched sides and went to the other team. That's the easy story people tell so they don't have to think deeper. But Maher's point goes further. He is saying they didn't wake up and become villains. They were pushed. They got tired. They felt one side of culture became overly judgmental and closed-minded. Now that doesn't mean everyone who leaves the left is wise or honest. Some are opportunists. Some chase attention. Some just like being contrarian. But pretending there was no cultural overreach, no pressure for total agreement, no growing intolerance for disagreement, that's not real. And this is what bothers Democrats, because deep down many know there is some truth here.
Maybe this will put quietus to the nonsense that Elon and Rogan too went to the dark side. I hear that all the... They went to the dark... Yeah, like they got that The Last of Us fungal infection and became zombies. No, they just got driven away. Because that's how politics works these days. One side gets elected precisely because the other side was just in power and pushed their agenda way too far and drove people in the opposite direction. The pendulum swings back and forth.
Most Democratic politicians are not extreme activists. Many are fairly moderate and institutional, but they are not the ones shaping the public image. Today, a party's face is not just elected leaders. It is online activists, viral clips, influencers, and the loudest social media voices. Fair or not, that becomes the identity. So when people hear liberal, they don't think of careful policy discussion. They think of moral policing, smug attitudes, language rules, and endless online arguments. They think, these people don't even like me.
Bradley, did you go to the bathroom or something when that came on? Because it's almost like he was talking to you directly, like by name. Don't scold, don't shame, don't out-yell. Clinton had the same message. I urge you to meet people where they are. I urge you not to demean them. Treat them with respect. And that's the thing. The actual politicians of the Democratic Party are generally a pretty sane crop of people. The worst of them are leagues better than the worst Republicans. The Democratic politicians are not the ones calling to defend the police and other goofy stuff. But the kind of people who are always howling on social media, yeah, that's who gives a lot of people the ick when they hear liberal.
Once voters feel that way, it becomes a serious issue. Because in politics, resentment is stronger than gratitude, always has been. You can talk about economic help all day, but if people feel judged or looked down on, they stop listening. Maher's point shows a contradiction. Republicans often claim to represent working people even when their policies don't always help them directly, but they avoid coming across as constantly insulting them. That image alone gives them an advantage. And Democrats ignore it at their own risk.
Republicans have taken full advantage of how snobby and out of touch Democrats have become to claim the title of Party of the Working Class, but Trump's big, beautiful budget cuts Medicaid by $723 billion. Steve Bannon says a lot of MAGA is on Medicaid. Yeah, it is. 42% of MAGA voters say Medicaid is important to them. Let's see if they miss it.
That's why the idea that nobody likes a snob matters so much. It sounds simple, but it explains modern politics better than most long analyses. People would rather be represented by someone rough but respectful than someone polished who seems judgmental. It is not always logical, but it is real, and ignoring it means misunderstanding elections. Maher also touches something deeper. A movement that claims to support openness should be able to handle disagreement. That used to be basic liberal thinking, debate, tolerance, curiosity, and free speech. But at some point, parts of the left started treating disagreement like harm. When that happens, you are no longer building a coalition. You are building a closed group where everyone must think the same. That may feel satisfying online, but it does not win elections.
You can give the people all the goodies Joe Manchin will allow, and it doesn't seem to buy their love. Why? Why is the party that supports so many issues that benefit the middle class still considered out of touch by 62% of Americans? In plain English, nobody likes a snob.
And no, this does not mean the right is perfect. Maher also acknowledges that Republicans can be chaotic, aggressive, and sometimes reckless, but their flaws do not cancel out the left's cultural issues. Both things can exist at the same time. The right can be messy and the left can be overly self-righteous. The public is allowed to dislike both, and often that is exactly what happens.
With people not voting for anything, but just to get rid of the latest extremist assholes who tried to remake America in their image instead of just governing. Well, right now, it's the Republicans who are the very definition of drunk with power, and also sometimes just drunk.
That is another sharp point Maher makes. A party can still lose even when it wins. If people vote out of exhaustion instead of belief, that is not real support, it is forced choice. Looking ahead to 2028, he suggests Democrats still lack a leader who can connect with moderates and swing voters without sounding like activist messaging. Big online engagement is not the same as real-world support. Viral clips are not the same as voters in key states. What works in online spaces does not always translate to everyday America.
But you got to win the Democratic primary. It's not so easy, but they game the system. They change it.
And who do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't
Crowds
sustain itself,
you know,
but right now they have no leader.
You know.
But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election.
That connects to the criticism of microaggression culture in certain regions. It may sound harsh, but the point is that most voters do not live in academic language environments. They do not talk like institutions or online activists. They want leaders who speak simply and clearly without overthinking every word. Because when politics starts sounding like it was written by highly educated committees trying too hard, people tune out. Worse, they start believing leaders care more about appearance than real solutions.
It's not artisan. It's art and Stan. Your microaggression culture doesn't play in the Rust Belt. If a staffer hands you a speech that says menstruating people instead of women, don't say that. Say women. Don't put anyone fresh out of college in charge of the campaign. They've been given participation trophies their whole life. They don't know how to win.
Maher is also talking about something beyond language. He is talking about trust and competence. Good intentions are not enough if outcomes feel messy or confusing. People notice when things don't work and they are not required to ignore that. Trust is built through results, clarity, and openness to criticism. The mistake is thinking moral goals automatically protect you from accountability. Maher's main criticism is that Democrats sometimes focus more on appearing morally correct than being effective, more focused on signaling values than convincing voters. But most people are not political activists. They are busy with work, family, and daily life. They just want normal-sounding leadership. When politics sounds too detached from real life, people disengage. And when that happens, other sides gain the advantage by appearing more grounded, even if that is only an image. The message is simple: if you want people to listen, don't talk down to them. If you want support, don't treat disagreement as attack. Respect is not optional in persuasion. Without it, politics becomes just noise, and voters can hear that from far away. That is why Maher's point lands: people don't want snobs in charge. They want leaders who feel human. Ignore that and no policy plan matters because the room is already lost.